There is a certain magic to a grapevine. It connects us to ancient traditions, to sunny hillsides, and the promise of a sweet, juicy harvest. But to get the best from your vine, you must be a little brave. You must be prepared to prune it and prune it hard. Unlike many other plants in the garden that we might gently trim, pruning a grapevine is a radical act. It feels almost brutal, but I assure you it is the single most important job you will do. Without this annual haircut, a grapevine will grow into a tangled mess of leaves and stems, producing very few, very small, and often very sour grapes. It is our intervention that channels the plant's incredible energy into making fruit, not just more vine. So why is this so critical? A grapevine, left to its own devices, has one goal: to grow as big and as fast as it can. It wants to scramble up towards the sunlight, covering everything in its path. In the wild, this strategy helps it compete and survive. But in our gardens, we want something different. We are not interested in meters and meters of leafy growth. We want fruit, delicious, sun-ripened grapes. Pruning is how we have a conversation with the vine. We are telling it, don't put your energy there, into all that wood and leaf. Put it here, into these specific buds that will give us the fruit we desire. It is a partnership, a collaboration between gardener and plant. This is quite different from, say, pruning a rose or a lavender bush. With those, we are often shaping the plant for aesthetic reasons or encouraging a second flush of flowers. With a grapevine, the pruning is far more strategic and, frankly, more severe. You will be removing a huge amount of growth, sometimes up to 90% of what the vine grew last year. This can be daunting for a new gardener. It feels wrong to cut so much away, but you must trust the process. This disciplined approach is what transforms a vigorous, rambling vine into a productive and manageable garden treasure. It's an act of faith that pays off wonderfully. Think of it like this: the vine has a finite amount of energy stored in its roots and main trunk over winter. When spring arrives, that energy surges upwards, ready to fuel new growth. If you leave hundreds of buds on the vine, that energy is spread very thinly. Each bud gets a little bit, resulting in weak shoots and disappointing fruit. By pruning it down to just a few carefully chosen buds, you concentrate all that wonderful energy. Each remaining bud receives a powerful boost, leading to strong, healthy shoots that will carry large, sweet bunches of grapes. It is the ultimate example of less being more in the garden. To prune a grapevine successfully, you must understand a simple but vital rule. Grapes only grow on new shoots that come from one-year-old wood. They do not grow on the old, gnarled trunk, nor do they grow directly from shoots that are brand new this spring. The fruit appears on green shoots that sprout from the brown, woody canes that grew last year. This is the secret to everything. Your entire pruning strategy is based on this single fact. Each winter, your job is to remove the old wood that has already fruited and select the best of last year's new canes to produce this year's crop. It is a cycle of renewal. Let's break that down a bit more, shall we? Imagine your vine in late winter. You will see the main, thick trunk. This is the permanent part of the vine. Coming off that, you will see some older, thicker side branches, which we call arms or cordons. And from those, you will see lots of thinner, smoother, brown canes. These are the canes that grew during the previous spring and summer. This is your one-year-old wood. This is where the magic is stored. Hidden along these canes are little bumps, the buds. It is from these buds that the new, green, fruit-bearing shoots will emerge when the weather warms up. Because of this, the wood that carried last year's grapes is now finished, at least in terms of fruiting. It has done its job. If you leave it on the vine, it will just get older and woodier, and it will not produce fruit again. This is why we must be ruthless. We cut away all the wood that has already fruited, taking it right back to the main framework. This keeps the vine tidy and prevents it from becoming a confusing jungle of unproductive stems. Your goal is to create a simple, clear structure where it is easy to see the old, permanent wood and the new, temporary canes that you will choose for the coming season. This process of removal and renewal is what keeps a grapevine productive year after year. Every single winter, you are essentially resetting the vine. You are clearing the slate. By getting rid of the old, spent canes, you make space for the new. It also allows you to control exactly where the fruit will grow. You can position the new canes along your wires or support system, ensuring each bunch of grapes will have enough space, sunlight, and air to ripen perfectly. It is a wonderfully logical system. Once you grasp this idea that you are always replacing old wood with new, the whole business of pruning grapes becomes much less mysterious. Now that you understand why we prune, the next question is when. And with grapevines, timing is absolutely crucial. The best time to prune your grapevine is during its period of deep dormancy. This is in the dead of winter, after all the leaves have fallen and before the sap starts to rise in the spring. For most of us in the UK, this means any time from late November through to the end of February. I prefer to do my main pruning in January or February. This ensures the vine is as dormant as it can be, which makes the whole process cleaner and less stressful for the plant. Pruning too early, in the autumn when the leaves are still on, is not a good idea. The vine is still busy drawing energy from its leaves and storing it in the roots for winter. If you cut the canes off too soon, you rob the plant of some of these vital reserves. It is best to let nature take its course. Wait for the first hard frosts to do their work. The leaves will turn yellow and fall, and the vine will shut down for the winter. Once the vine is just a skeleton of bare wood, it is ready for its winter prune. This is when the structure of the plant is clearest, and you can easily see what needs to go and what should stay. On the other hand, you must avoid pruning too late in the season. As spring approaches, even before you see any visible signs of life, the sap inside the vine begins to move. It is like a pump switching on, sending fluid up from the roots to the tips of the canes. If you prune a vine when the sap is flowing, the cuts will bleed profusely. It can be quite alarming to see, with watery sap dripping constantly from every cut. While this is not usually fatal to a mature, healthy vine, it is certainly not ideal. It weakens the plant and can create a messy, sticky situation, so it is best avoided by getting the job done before March. So pick a dry, crisp day in the middle of winter for the task. Get your tools ready. A sharp pair of secateurs is essential, and perhaps a small pruning saw for any thicker, older wood you need to remove. Having sharp tools is important not just for you, but for the vine. A clean cut will heal much faster and is less likely to become diseased than a ragged, bruised one. Take your time. Look carefully at the vine. Identify the old wood and the new canes. Remind yourself of the goal, to remove the old and select the new. This is your moment to shape the vine's destiny for the coming year. When you first plant a grapevine, you are not just planting it for one season's fruit. You are beginning a long-term project. The first few years are all about building a strong, permanent framework. This is the bones of the vine, the trunk and main arms that will support all future growth for decades to come. Getting this structure right from the start will make your annual pruning so much simpler in the future. Don't be impatient for fruit in these early years. Your priority is to establish a good shape. The reward will be years of easy maintenance and bountiful harvests later on. In the first year after planting, your goal is simply to encourage a single, strong, upright stem. Let the young vine grow, and then in its first winter, you will make a defining cut. Choose the strongest, most vigorous shoot that grew and prune everything else away. Then, cut this chosen stem back to just 2 or 3 healthy buds above the ground. It seems incredibly drastic, I know. You are cutting a young plant back to a tiny stump, but this severe cut will force the plant to put all its energy into producing a few very strong shoots in the following spring. It's the foundation for a powerful trunk. In the second year, you should get 2 or 3 strong, vigorous shoots growing from that stump. Again, you must be selective. Choose the very best one to become the main trunk of your vine. Tie it carefully to a sturdy stake or cane to keep it growing straight and tall. You can remove the other shoots, or you might keep a second one as a backup, just in case. As this main stem grows upwards, you pinch out any side shoots that appear, encouraging it to reach the height of your first support wire, which is typically about 75 centimeters or so from the ground. Once it reaches that wire, you can pinch out the growing tip to encourage it to branch out. In the third winter, you will have a single, strong vertical trunk. Now you can start to form the main arms, or cordons. From the top of the trunk, select 2 healthy canes that grew last year and train them horizontally along your support wire, one to the left and one to the right. This classic shape is called the double guillot system. Prune these 2 canes back, leaving about 6 to 10 buds on each. These canes will produce your very first crop of grapes. Everything else is cut away. You have now established the permanent T-shape of your vine, and from this point on, your annual pruning will be a simple matter of renewing these 2 fruiting arms each year. Once your grapevine has its basic framework, your annual winter pruning becomes a wonderfully satisfying ritual. The task is to select the canes that will carry this year's fruit. Remember, you are looking for the wood that grew last year. It will be about the thickness of a pencil, smooth-barked, and a lovely light brown color. It should look healthy and vigorous. Avoid keeping any canes that are very thin and spindly, or any that are excessively thick and bullish, as these are often less fruitful. You are looking for that perfect, pencil-thick cane, which tells you it grew with just the right amount of vigor. As you look at the head of your vine, the top of the trunk where the arms branch out, you will see a number of canes that grew last season. Your job is to choose the best 2 to become your main fruiting canes for the year ahead. Ideally, you want to choose 2 canes that are growing from a good position, close to the main trunk. This keeps the vine compact and manageable over the years. Once you have selected your 2 champion canes, you will remove everything else. That's right, all the other canes that grew last year get cut away completely, right back to the old wood of the trunk. Now you have your 2 chosen canes. The next step is to shorten them. You will train these 2 canes horizontally along your support wires, one to the left and one to the right, tying them in gently. But how long should they be? This depends on the vigor of your vine, but a good rule of thumb is to leave between 6 and 12 buds on each cane. Count the little bumps along the cane and make your cut just beyond the last bud you want to keep. If your vine is very strong, you might leave 10 or 12 buds. If it's a bit weaker, be more conservative and leave only 6 or 8. This decision dictates the size of your crop. By leaving, say, 10 buds on each of the 2 canes, you have a total of 20 buds. Each of these buds has the potential to grow into a new green shoot, and each of those shoots will typically carry 1 to 3 bunches of grapes. So you can see how this simple act of counting buds allows you to control your harvest. It prevents the vine from overcropping, which would lead to poor quality fruit and an exhausted plant. It is a precise and deliberate act that ensures all the vine's energy is channeled into producing a manageable number of truly fantastic grape bunches. While you are selecting your main fruiting canes for this year, you must also think about next year. This is the mark of a truly thoughtful gardener. You need to ensure that you will have well-placed canes to choose from when you come to prune again in 12 months' time. This is where the idea of renewal spurs comes in. A renewal spur is simply a cane that you cut back much harder, leaving only 1 or 2 buds. Its purpose is not to produce fruit this year, but to produce the replacement canes for next year. It is your insurance policy for the future of the vine. When you are looking at the head of the vine, after you have chosen your 2 main fruiting canes, look for another 1 or 2 well-placed canes growing close to the trunk. Instead of removing these completely, you prune them back very short, leaving just a couple of buds. These stubs are your renewal spurs. In the spring, these buds will burst into life and grow into strong new canes. Because they are not supporting any fruit, they will grow with great vigor. Then, next winter, these are the canes you will select to be your new fruiting arms. It's a brilliant system of rotation. At the same time, you will cut away the 2 long canes that produced this year's fruit. They will have done their job, and you can remove them completely. You then train the new canes that grew from your renewal spurs along the wires, and you create new renewal spurs for the year after that. This cycle, fruiting cane, renewal spur, cut away the old, is the engine that keeps the vine productive and contained year after year. It prevents the fruiting wood from getting further and further away from the main trunk, which would happen if you simply kept extending the old arms. This technique, often called the Guyot system, might sound complicated when described in words, but it is very logical when you are standing in front of the vine. You have two long canes tied down for fruit and two short stubs pointing upwards to grow the replacements. It is a simple, elegant cycle of replacement. Every year you are providing for this season's harvest and the next. It's a bit like crop rotation, but all on one plant. Mastering this simple technique of creating renewal spurs is the key to maintaining a healthy, productive, and well-shaped grapevine for its entire life. Sometimes we inherit a garden with a grapevine that has been left to its own devices for years. Or perhaps life gets in the way, and our own vine becomes a tangled, overgrown monster. Looking at this chaotic mass of woody stems can be incredibly intimidating. Where on earth do you begin? The good news is that grapevines are remarkably forgiving. Even the most neglected vine can be brought back to life and productivity with some brave and methodical pruning. The key is not to panic and to be prepared to sacrifice a year's crop in the name of long-term recovery. Your first step is to stand back and really look at the vine. Try to trace the stems back to the ground and identify the main trunk, or trunks. Often a neglected vine will have several thick, gnarled stems coming from the base. Your goal is to simplify. You need to choose the best, healthiest-looking trunk to become the foundation of your new, restored vine. It should be sound, without too much cracked or dead-looking bark. Once you have chosen your champion trunk, you must be ruthless and cut all the others away at ground level using a sharp pruning saw. This is a massive step, but a necessary one to restore order. Now you are left with a single main trunk and a wild tangle of growth coming from it. Your next job is to trace this growth and figure out what's what. Look for some younger, healthier-looking canes amidst the thick, complex wood. You are looking for that pencil-thick, one-year-old wood we talked about. If you can find one or two good canes growing in a decent position, perhaps from low down on the main trunk, then you are in luck. You can treat this as a restoration project. Cut away all the other old, tangled mess, leaving just your main trunk and those one or two promising new canes to form a new framework. If, however, the entire vine is just old, unproductive wood with no decent young canes near the base, you may need to perform a more radical operation. In this case, you can cut the entire vine back to a stump about a meter high, or even lower to just 30 centimeters from the ground. This feels terrifying, but the vine's established root system will have huge reserves of energy. In the spring, it will respond by sending up a flurry of new shoots from the base. You can then select the strongest of these new shoots and begin to retrain it from scratch, just as you would with a brand new young vine. It is a complete reset, and while you won't get fruit for a year or two, you will get a healthy, manageable vine for the future. Pruning is not just about controlling the size of your vine or selecting fruiting wood. It is also fundamentally about managing light and air. Grapes need sunshine to ripen and develop their sugars. A bunch of grapes grown in the shade will be small, green, and sour. A bunch that has been bathed in summer sun will be plump, sweet, and delicious. Your winter pruning sets the stage for this. By creating a simple, open framework of canes tied neatly to wires, you ensure that the fruiting shoots will grow in an orderly way, not in a jumbled heap where they shade each other out. Each bunch of grapes will have its own space in the sun. Equally important is airflow. Grapes are particularly susceptible to fungal diseases like powdery mildew and downy mildew. These diseases thrive in damp, stagnant, and humid conditions. When a vine is a dense, overcrowded tangle of leaves, air cannot circulate freely. After a summer shower, the leaves stay wet for hours, creating the perfect breeding ground for these fungal problems. A well-pruned vine, with its open structure, allows the breeze to pass through the leaves. This dries them out quickly after rain, dramatically reducing the risk of disease taking hold. Good air circulation is one of your best defenses. Think of your support system of posts and wires as a scaffold. Your job as the pruner is to arrange the vine on this scaffold in a single plane. You are creating a living, fruiting wall. The leaves should form a relatively thin curtain, not a thick, dense bush. This ensures that sunlight can penetrate right through the canopy, not just hitting the outer leaves. It helps ripen the wood for next year's crop, as well as the fruit for this year's. A sun-ripened cane is a healthy, productive cane. A cane that has grown in the shade will be weak and less likely to produce good fruit. This is why we tie the fruiting canes horizontally. The new green shoots will then naturally grow upwards towards the sun. This creates a beautiful, organized system. The leaves form a canopy at the top, photosynthesizing and producing energy, while the fruit hangs down below, protected from the harshest sun, but still receiving plenty of light and air. Every cut you make in winter should be with this final summer picture in mind. You are not just cutting back a plant, you are an architect, designing a structure that will perfectly harness the power of the sun and the movement of the air. Your main pruning work is done in the winter, but your job is not quite finished. To get the very best from your vine, a little bit of summer pruning is also required. This is a much gentler and more selective process than the winter butchery. Summer pruning is all about maintaining order, controlling excessive leafy growth, and focusing the plant's energy squarely on ripening the fruit. As the new green shoots grow from your fruiting canes, they can become very vigorous, very quickly. Your first summer job is to thin them out. Rub off any weak or crowded shoots, leaving them spaced about 10 to 15 centimeters apart along the cane. As these chosen shoots grow longer and longer, they will need to be tied into your support wires to keep things tidy. But they can also grow with extraordinary vigor. Once a shoot has developed 2 or 3 bunches of grapes, you can pinch or cut off the growing tip of that shoot. A good guide is to leave just 2 or 3 leaves beyond the last bunch of grapes. This stops the shoot from growing endlessly and tells the vine, stop making more stem and leaves and put your energy into swelling and sweetening these grapes instead. This single act makes a huge difference to the final quality of your fruit. You will also need to remove any unwanted growth. Vines are determined things, and they will often try to send out new shoots from the main trunk or from the old wood. These are called suckers, and they should be rubbed off or snipped off as soon as you see them. They are simply stealing energy that should be going to your fruit. Similarly, as the main canopy of leaves develops, you may find it becomes a bit too dense. In late summer, about a month before you expect to harvest, you can selectively remove a few leaves from around the grape bunches themselves. This is called leaf stripping. Don't go mad with leaf stripping. The leaves are the plant's engine, after all. But removing just a few of the leaves that are directly shading the fruit can make a big difference. It improves that all-important air circulation right around the bunches, reducing the risk of rot. And it allows more direct sunlight to reach the grapes, which helps them to color up beautifully and develop their full, sweet flavor. This combination of thinning shoots, stopping the tips, and removing a few leaves is the final piece of the puzzle. It's the fine-tuning that elevates a good harvest into a truly great one, and it keeps your vine looking neat and purposeful all through the growing season.